training allowance. And police yet to effect any arrest days after a woman accused of pilfering was molested in Kumasi. And on the international front, at least 5 people have been killed in Guinea when security forces cracked down on students who were demonstrating. I've got details of these stories and many more lined up shortly. Please stay. You're still watching Media Live, and let's take you a quick run through what the president said during his State of the Nation address. He started by saying that he is in a great hurry to fix the country's economic challenges. And I quote him by saying that he was not elected by the majority of Guineans to complain, and he was elected to fix what is broken, and he mentioned that I am determined to do just that. Now, he mentioned that more debts were accumulated in the last 8 years than any other government put together since independence, and targeted institutional and legislative reforms will be implemented. He mentioned that government will create the atmosphere that will generate jobs, and he looks forward to an exciting time in agriculture and take decisions that will help grow the economy. He mentioned that we must fix the reserve and reverse the unfortunate trend in the past 8 years. He categorically stated that restoration and maintenance of a stable macroeconomy and teacher training allowances will be restored. He added that the Takoradi-Paga Railway will be initiated this year, and expressed that concern about he going in debt. He touched on this, that it wasn't a budget statement but a State of a Nation address. He also touched on the free SHS, which he mentioned again, reiterated that it will begin for the 2017-2018 academic year, and implementation through some public measures that will take place. But this afternoon, I do have the Executive Director of VIAM African Educational Policy Think Tank, and they have been on the forefront of education. Good afternoon, Dr. Prince Ama. Thanks for your time.
Good afternoon, and just a quick one. We have indicated previously that our name has changed to the Institute for Education Studies.
Thank you for that correction, right. Dr. Prince Ama. The Institute for Education Studies, and he's Executive Director. Now, Doc, early on, we were chatting before I started the bulletin. I was asking you your view about the president's statement, even specifically on education.
Well, what he said is just a reaffirmation of what has been said previously. We do believe that the budget statement might be helpful in terms of determining the costs of implementation of most of the policy interventions that the president is talking about. But generally, he was very specific on the areas that this government's focus will be, especially within the context of improving math and science, which has become an albatross.
And ICT as well.
And ICT in terms of advancing the scientific base of this country. If you look at the developed world, if you take US, for example, they were always developing policy interventions that will expand the scientific base of the country. And they did that by science and math, developing science and math curriculum that will respond to the need of the country. And so such intervention is quite welcome. Already there is science and math intervention under the Ghana secondary improvement, secondary education improvement program being funded by the World Bank, training about providing support for 125 schools across the country who are performing very low in math and science. So this is this policy intervention appears to complement the existing ones, and for which reason I think it's very commendable on the part of the government.
One thing he also mentioned was about technical education. Do you see a way forward when it comes to technical and vocational training in our country?
I mean, I've heard
satisfied?
Exactly. I am absolutely satisfied, and I have heard the president and also the Minister for Education yesterday making very similar comments, and it does appear that the government policy intention this time is on technical vocational education. Look, a large chunk of our people are unable to transit to the senior high school, which is a grammar type of education, and the grammar type of education leads us to unemployment rates. There has been an expanded access to senior high school doing grammar courses, very limited access to, very expanded access as well to university, where people go and do humanity-related courses and at the expense of science-related courses. And at the end of the day, the industries are unavailable to accommodate these graduates. So when we turn our focus to the technical vocational education and training, what we are doing is that you are providing people the opportunity to develop their hands-on abilities to create businesses and employ people. And so that's we going along that policy focus is extremely welcoming. I think that the government has taken a very bold decision. As we speak now, funding for TVET is absolutely all-time low. Whilst we are doing about 1.4 billion Ghana cedi a year on secondary, senior high school, we are doing about 230 million Ghana cedi a year on secondary technical vocation. Of course, investing in that sector requires huge, monies in there because it's quite capital intensive because of the equipment that they use. But I think that that's very welcoming within the context of the free senior high school policy. It's a policy intervention that is potential, has the potent of addressing the myriad of unemployment issues.
Now, another thing that we've seen in this country where politicians have doubled with and played with a number of times has to do with trainee allowance. And this morning, the president categorically mentioned that they will restore nurses and teacher training allowances. From your point of view for education, what do you make of this? Well,
our policy perspective on this issue is a matter of public record. We have had opportunity to say this before, but what we have said is that providing this facility for teacher trainee may not be sustainable within the context of an expanded free-for-all access to College of Education. So now that the government has taken that position to restore the allowance, the only possible and logical thing to do now is to look at the number of teachers we require in the country and peg it to admission in the
Would you have preferred that we hold on such a measure? From your point of view?
Well, of course, I mean, as we speak now, there's a very limited resources. Teacher trainee allowance alone, if the government is giving, the last time we did the estimate, we're looking at 450 Ghana cedi per head for 27,000 students. And it was running around 10.2 million Ghana cedi a month and around 120 million Ghana cedi a year. But the figures are going up now. The government want to give around 550 or so. So we think that we could have used it elsewhere. But this is
where specifically would
in terms of expansion. Most of the colleges of education, some of them are they look exactly like a secondary school. If you go to Tumu Training College, for example, it looks like a secondary school. So what we need is expanded infrastructure, to be able to develop the capacity of our teachers. As we speak now, there is a program ongoing called the Transforming Teacher Education Program, sponsored by the UK Aid. But what that project is doing is to provide, improve the quality of teachers, but issues of infrastructure is unavailable, and we need money to do that. But the government's policy position is to restore it, and this is a huge, we will say that government has got a political mandate to implement that. But having that so, within the context of our economy, what we need to do now is to put a cap on enrollment.
You rightly mentioned that, yes, it's politics. I've also stated that. But we've seen instances where, even in America, where politicians make promises and later renege and realize that, okay, probably we went too fast, we can slow down, we should take a relook at what exactly we've said, or probably explain to citizens that, yes, we mentioned that we're going to do this and this, but I think that we should slow down on that. Do you think we should do that at this point, especially for the allowances?
Well, for political expediency, I think that this is nothing that the president, the government can refuse to implement, because it was a major policy issue that engulfed the entire campaign organization in the 2016 election, and so it would be quite difficult, suicidal politically, for the government to renege on that promise. But I said that, as I said, the only logical thing to do at the moment is to put a cap on the admission of teacher trainees, because at the moment, if, for example, we need 500,000 teachers at the basic school, that's what the government needs to do now, rationing these 500,000 students across the colleges of education.
Is that the only way
that means
out?
that because yes, because then we are able to put a cap on the expenditure, on how much we can give for allowance. It cannot be free for all.
Now, even before we talk a bit about the funding source for the SHS, which has become a big issue countrywide. You mentioned about the cap, and you've said this over and over again, not just for this platform, but as an institution, civil society organization, have you had interactions with relevant stakeholders on this very issue?
Well, I mean, we have had the other government, we were able to engage them in public discussions about the way forward